Okay, in this video we're going to be creating a blank database and then creating a table in what's called Datasheet view, which is actually not my preferred way of creating a table, but something you need to know for this chapter. So here I've invoked access and I'm simply going to click on blank database. You see that there are a variety of templates here you could pick from, just for you for future reference. If you want to kind of poke around and see what's available, you could pick up a template here and just kind of play around with access. But anyway, we're going to go to blank database, and when you click on it, you'll see that it wants you to give it a name. So I'm just going to call this Access Chapter 1 Lab, and then you can decide where you want to, what folder you want to put it in if you click on this Browse for Location to your database. So I'm going to throw it in my CCRI folder here. Having trouble double clicking, fall 2017. Okay, that's fine. And I'm going to click OK. So that's how you designate where you're saving it to. And then we're going to click Create. And so when Access opens up, what happens here is it always opens up in a table in Datasheet view. Because basically Access recognizes that you don't have a database unless you have a table. Because as you recall from the previous video, the table is where the data resides. And without data, you really don't have a database. So it wants you to create a table right from the get-go for a blank database. And that's basically what's happened here. So you can see that it's created this table. It's calling it Table 1. It has one field right now, which is called the ID field. And typically speaking, every record in Excel needs to have some sort of ID field, which is its unique identifier for that particular record. And we'll talk more about that in the future, but for now, that's all you really need to know. So I'm going to click on that ID column header because I want to rename this. Instead of just ID, I want to actually call it Teacher ID. So this particular table that I'm creating is going to be about teachers and when they're hired and what grade they teach and their contact information. Okay, just so you have an idea. So I've clicked on the ID field, and then on the Field tab up here in the Properties group, I'm going to go to this Name and Caption. And so here I'm able to actually change the name of the field. I'm going to call it Teacher No Space ID. Now, for field names, it's recommended that you don't put in spaces for your field names. You can, but the issue with it is later on when you're referencing those field names, you actually need to put brackets around it. It gets to be kind of a pain in the butt. So it's easier just to not have spaces. And typically what you'll see is when there's a new word, that new word is sort of capitalized. So it makes it a little easier to read. In the case of ID, they're both capitalized. The caption is what you will see when you're in Datasheet view. So you'll actually see it here. You want the caption to have a space because that's what, when you get to forms and you get to entering data in your table in Datasheet view, that's what the user will see at the column header. And you want the user to see it in a more user-friendly manner, which is why we put a space there. But the name is the actual field name, which we don't put spaces. So I click OK, and you can see that it's created it. It's put the space there. When we go to Design View later on, you'll see that the field name is Teacher No Space ID, but here it is with a space. And then I want to click to add more fields. So I'm going to click on the Click to Add, and what it does is it shows you all the different data types that you can make a field. And it's important to know what data type, and obviously your homework's going to tell you, right? Short text is just a shorter text field. Number would be any kind of like quantity, okay? Large number would be like a larger number that you want to put in. Currency would be anything that has a dollar sign to it. So you can kind of get the idea here of all the different ones. For the most part, you're going to be working with short text fields, but there will be times, and they'll always tell you which data type that you're picking from. All right, so in our case here, let's see, I do want this to be, well, actually, you know what I'm going to do this time? The other thing that you have the ability to do, rather than picking a data type here, is there are, under this More Fields area up here, you'll see that they have, if you scroll down, they have these Quick Start categories, they're called. And the idea behind a Quick Start category is, let's say you pick address. It will actually put 3 fields in. It'll do address, city, state, zip. I think it's actually 4 fields. So it'll put a group of fields in for you, because it recognizes that's something that you want to do fairly often. So watch, I'm going to go here and I'm going to pick the name field. Okay, so I went to fields, I went to more fields, and I'm coming down here to name. And when I do that, it added 2 fields, last name and first name. And you can see that it's showing the caption here. So the caption for this guy for last name, if I go up here to name and caption, you can see it made the field name last name and it made the caption last space name. And the same thing here for the first name field, right? If I look at name and caption, same thing here. So by going to more fields and picking these sort of quick start fields, basically saved me from having to create 2 fields. Okay? All right, so now the next thing that we want to go to is, in this case, we do want to do that click to add, where I was heading before. And this time we're going to actually do a date and time field. So I'm going to pick date and time. And you can see that it has it, waiting for me to type in the field name. So I'm going to type in hire date. Okay. But the issue here is if I go up to name and caption right now, it's actually going to show it as field 1. So I'm going to step off it, go back on it. Okay, and pick name and caption, and you'll see that it shows hire date, and then here I can make it hire date and click OK. All right, so for the next one, I'm going to show you a little different way of doing that. So I'm going to go over to click to add here, and I'm going to pick short text, and this time I'm going to go name and caption. And so you see it says field 1. So right here, I'm going to type grade taught, and then grade space taught, and click OK. All right. So that's created both in the same swoop. You can also tab field to field. So if you're on this one, you can tab to go to the next field. That's another way to do it. All right, so next one I'm going to enter in here is home phone. And I'm not going to sit here and make you do each of these, but I do want to talk about phone number for a second. Phone number, zip code, social security number, you would think that those would be number fields, but they're actually not. They're short text fields. And the reason for that is they're not numbers that you would normally add. For example, I live in Westerly. My zip code is 02891. All right. There is no number that actually starts with 0. So it has to be a text field. So just keep that in mind whenever you're doing phone numbers or zip codes or social security number. Those are all text fields. Okay. So I'm going to actually, I'll do just this one more. So let's see, home phone. And you do always want to match case there. And then, so see how you just saw there how when I went back to name and caption, even though I had typed it in, it didn't show it. So that's why I step off it and come back on it and then change the caption. All right, I'm going to pause this just so I can get the rest of these in and you don't have to watch me do it. Okay, so I came back in time here to just show you the very last one. Because that one is going to be currency data type. So I'm going to pick currency, and then for my field name here, I'm going to type in salary. Okay, and since this is just one word, I actually don't need to type a caption for this one because the caption would be exactly the same as the field name, so it's sort of pointless, unless the assignment tells you to. But in the real world, just know that, if you don't have like email, I didn't type a caption for that one. I didn't need to because the field name, the way it is fine. So it's only when you want the caption to show differently than what the field name is that you have to worry about that. Okay. So the next thing we're going to look at is how we can adjust the field width. So I'm going to go over and I'm going to click on the teacher ID column here up in the header row. So this header row, these are our field names in our datasheet view. Okay. And now I'm going to go over to the home tab, and in the records group, you'll see that I have this option of clicking more. Okay. And here listed at the bottom of this is field width. Okay, field width. And what this allows me to do is I could enter a column width here, which is very similar to what we did in Excel, right? If you remember in Excel, we also have the ability to double click to fit our column width as wide as our widest entry, okay? And you can do something very similar here by clicking on best fit. And so what best fit will do, it will fit it to what it thinks the longest entry is going to be. Now, I'm going to show you a different way that I think is actually a little bit better in order to do your field width. So I'm going to click on the last name one, and I'm going to go to the Fields tab, okay? And you can see here where it says the field size. So if you know what you want the field size to be, you can simply type it in. So here I'm going to make this field size of 20, and maybe I'll make field size, by default, a text field is 255 characters for the short text, so I'm going to make this one 10. And the reason why you want to just bring it down to what you think it's going to be is, number one, you're taking up less space in the database, but number two, when you go to create your reports, it will only make it as big as the field size is, so you won't have a lot of wasted space, basically, okay? And then I'm going to do the same thing here for home phone number. So you can see how this is a little bit quicker, so if you're just entering the field size this way, I think it's a little bit nicer. The other method that's there is useful if you have data typed in, then it can size it to what it thinks will be the best fit for that. I also want to point out here, though, that salary, because it's a currency data type, notice that field size is not enabled for me. So there is no field size for a currency field. Same thing for hire date, right? No field size for a date field. So the only ones that I could do that for were these ones that were a short text field. Okay, so now what I want to do, because right now it's called table 1, I actually want to save the table. So if I come up here to save, it's going to say save as and ask me what I want to name it. And I'm going to name this teachers, and I'm going to click OK. So over here I see that now I have this table teachers. This is showing it in Datasheet view. I'm going to flip it now to design view. So watch here on the fields tab. See, I have 2 ways of looking at my table. Design view, and what design view does is it shows you each of your field names with their data types listed, right? So if I go to say last name in short text, I can see here that the field size is 20. I can see the caption here, right? First name, field size 10. I see the caption. Now, I will be honest with you. I typically will create a table in design view, in this view. This is the view that most programmers would use, not Datasheet view. But I had to teach you that other view, and I will teach you how to create it in design view. I think you'll find it a lot easier. But I had to teach you Datasheet view because you do need to know for your homework assignment. So watch here. I can flip between the two. If I just click on this button here, this is Datasheet view, and then this is design view. You could also go over to the tab name for the table here and flip it from here as well. So this is Datasheet view, and this is design view. Okay. So in a moment, in the next video, I'm going to teach you, I believe that's next up, I'm going to teach you how to enter data into our table, and you'll kind of get the idea as to why this is called Datasheet view. Okay. So for now, hopefully you understand how to create fields in a table.